A few weeks ago, Brandon Toy was back on Ranty's show with another sugar water solution experiment. And guess what? He showed that a flat surface that was hidden by an object in the foreground could be loomed higher above that object, so it was now visible. So this is certainly evidence supporting the globe claim that water behind the horizon can be loomed higher to form an apparent horizon. And Brandon also showed another phenomena of refraction, that looming can cause compression. So this is an overhead shot showing Brandon's layout. On the right over here outside of the tank, we have the camera, and right in the middle he has a toy car, and then there's also a number of towers that are built out of Lego blocks. So we said he added a total of 6 pounds of sugar, and then the photographs were taken 24 hours later. Of course, looming is a very simple concept to understand. So up above we have an observer that sees a dog in its actual position because the light has not been refracted. Down below, the light is being bent downward. It enters the observer's eyes at a higher angle. Therefore, to the observer, the dog appears higher or loomed up from its actual position. And Brandon even agrees to this.
What this appears to be doing is it's looming everything up in the bottom. It's not looming the tops. It's looming everything up in the bottom. I'm just saying the word looming because...
But not beyond, there's no...
So let's take a look at what Brandon was just talking about. Now I tried to enhance the photograph on the right to bring out a little bit more detail, so hopefully this works on your computer screen. So Brandon said there was no looming in the upper part. Actually, there's just some very slight looming if you look at this target in the background and the top of the Lego blocks. But Brandon is correct. If you look at all these areas here, you can see that there is a lot of looming that happened in the lower area. So this uneven looming has caused compression, and it's quite easy to see with these 3 Lego towers. And not only is it easier to see with this Lego tower, but on the left over here, you can see that each block is the same size. But as we go to the right, you can see that each block gets thinner and thinner as it gets into the denser water, which of course is causing more refraction. This is really self-explanatory. So up above, the observer sees each segment in its original size because the light is not refracted. But when we get into that density gradient, as you get lower into the gradient, it is bending light more and more, which of course is changing the angle that it enters the eyes of the observer. So of course what the observer sees is exactly what we saw in Brandon's experiment. Each of these segments gets thinner and thinner as it gets deeper into that density gradient. So what if Brandon had taken some cardboard and taped it to the outside of the tank to form a horizon right here? So in this Lego tower, what is not visible and is below the horizon has now been loomed higher, and it is compressed but visible above the horizon. And this is something that we do sometimes see in the real world. Look at those bottom floors and how compressed they are. Now this is from Red Pill Philosophy, and believe it or not, he is trying to explain this away as a normal function of perspective, saying that since it is near eye level, those areas are going to compress more. But of course, again, we don't see this all the time, so that is absolute nonsense. So there are a total of 8 stories that are visible in this complex. And when you look at the bottom 4, you can see that each one gets more and more compressed as it gets closer to the horizon. This is a photograph of that condominium complex, and it is a 12-story building. And these are the top 8 stories, so about 1/3 of that complex has been hidden by the horizon. And Brandon's experiment explains how this happens. But of course, Ranty is not convinced.
I'm just saying the word looming because...
But not behind, there's nothing being loomed up behind something else though. It's...
But a bit later, Ranty sees the truth. Oh, and by the way, This is Brandon's Aether Band.
I wanted to show you something.
To
Now
be honest,
imagine you
though,
had.
hold on, I need to retract something there. The
Okay.
car. Now, if you look at the blue ground on that, the blue ground is visible behind the car in the compressed version, but not in the original.
Oh, you're right. Yep. Yep, right here.
So was that really the first time that Brandon noticed this? I mean, how do you do this experiment and not notice these details? But anyways, this is the overhead shot, and what they are talking about is this area of gravel between the car and that yellow Lego base. So it is quite obvious on the left that the gravel and that yellow base are hidden by the car. But in the sugar solution, yeah, you can clearly see the gravel and you can clearly see the yellow base above the top of the car. So let's see what happens if Brandon would have put a piece of paper or cardboard and the top of it would have been a horizon that was aligned with the top of the car. So the bottom of the tank that was previously hidden by the horizon over here has now been loomed higher, forming an apparent horizon that is both higher and farther away. Thank you, Brandon, for proving that this is possible on a globe. And this experiment explains another Black Swan video by BML SB69. Not only do we have a severely compressed oil platform in the upper photograph, but the horizon is loomed higher and is now farther away. You know, both Ranty and Brandon have been doing these sugar solution experiments for quite a while now, and you would think that they would understand that yes, a density gradient does cause looming, but no. So let's listen as they try to explain this away.
Just trying to think what it is. So it has to be. It is, yeah, because the car has moved position too, so it's gone higher. From on the left position, it's lower down. You know, the wheels of it. You know, you can look where they are. That orange band should be a lot lower than that. The last line. Yeah. So if you go down to the bottom of the car, that's quite low down in the image. But then if you go across to the right-hand side, can you see how much that's been pushed up?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. This has been pushed up, but you're right.
But
There
it
is a
only
motion
pushes it
of
at that where you get that sort of inferior mirage, isn't it?
Inferior mirage?
Well, that's what I was going to show you here. Is yeah. So you're talking about in the real world.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's not an inferior mirage in my fish tank, but just imagine that you've got that inferior mirage band somewhere around here, or the ether band, and it's essentially just blocking everything at the bottom because that's the most dense or moist, or that's where the mirage is happening. So it's compressing the bottom, and then in the same general area, you're getting this miraging band that's partially or completely blocking things depending on how far they are. And it's going to look like a good portion of whatever's in the distance is just gone.
So Brandon, please show me where the inferior mirage or ether band is in this photograph because I do not see it. And where is the compression, the inferior mirage or the ether band in this photograph? I mean, I need to be honest, the critical thinking skills of both Ranty and Brandon leave a lot to be desired. But their confirmation bias is certainly on full display. But I do want to thank Brandon for supplying clear evidence that shows that water behind a globe horizon can be loomed higher to form an apparent horizon that is farther away.